We have let this dry a little bit. You can take a blow dryer to some of the edges of the blue because we're going to work in these sort of white areas right now. We don't want to touch the blue since we've used it glazed, and that will not be dry for at least 24 hours. So we're going to let that all dry really well before we apply color to it. But we took some other paint out on our palette, if you remember. So I'm going to just apply a little bit of water to that. Or you can just put some water on your brush. And I'm mixing around the white and that buff color. I just don't want it stark white. Mixing that around on the other side of my palette. And I'm just going to add in a little more water just to make it a very thin layer of color, trying to avoid the blue over there. And I'm just going to put that right here on the spaces that I didn't really touch with my blue too much. Again, being very careful not to go over too much of that blue because that is going to pick up and cause a problem if you go over too much of it. But I just want to cover some of this while I have the paint out and make sure I have a really good surface to dry. That will dry overnight so I can work on this in my next session and lay more glazes down all over. The more area I can cover today, the more I can cover in my next session. So I'm just going through here and working on any areas that had some white left, just to get a nice coat on there. Doesn't have to be exact or perfect. Just all I can say is make sure you avoid these big areas of blue. Don't put any color on them right now because they are still wet. But anywhere that's mostly white, you can feel free. Do not spray your painting either. Spray your palette or put water on your brush. Water that is sprayed will eat away the paint in little droplets that are left down. And by adding water to your palette or your brush, you have more control of where the water goes. Spray goes everywhere, and sometimes it goes in spots that you didn't intend, and it will eat away wet paint and leave little holes in your painting, which is probably not something you want. So I'm going to avoid the blue as much as possible. Lay this down, and we're almost done with this. I'm going to let it dry really well, 24 to 48 hours. Not just a few hours. You need to let glazes dry extremely well, at least 24 hours, so you can come back and lay some other tones on top. So I have covered this in a very abstract way. The blue glaze, then the white and the titanium mix. I did not use any glaze in that layer, and I just applied it to any white areas that were left on the canvas. Let this dry at least 24 hours or longer, and then we're going to come back and build up some more translucency with our glaze layers.